Okay, guys, my name is Ida Sanchez, and today I'm going to be giving a speech on the history of Dallas and the history of Highland Park, which is a neighborhood in Dallas, um, and how they've had a lot of racism stem from that community. And if you're from Dallas, you know that it's like a prominent, very wealthy, and it's I believe like 95% Caucasian. So in this speech, I will tell different stories of how racism has happened in Highland Park and there has been no consequences. All people do is give an apology, and I feel like if we start from the beginning since they're kids and have consequences, it won't get to the point where we are today with all the racism going on in Dallas. So all my life I lived in Dallas and foolishly thought every other city in the world was like Dallas. And then when I got older, I traveled to New York, LA, Miami, and I've noticed that those cities are very different than here. I was very foolish to think that a city like Dallas would be like every other city. One, where we are in the South, so we tend to be more conservative. And although Dallas is progressive compared to every other city, it's very different. So I'm not talking about the difference in Dallas, about how beautiful the skyline is, because I mean, look at that. But more about the fact that Dallas has had a very dark past with its racism and everything that's been going on. So, I'm a Hispanic female who went to a middle school in Irving that was predominantly populated by minority students. All my classmates were either Hispanic or black, and actually the minority were white students. My parents were immigrants, or are immigrants, who wanted the best education for me, so they researched a lot of high schools in Dallas. My mother read a couple of articles and decided the best thing for me was to apply to a school named Episcopal School of Dallas, which is a private school in North Dallas, close to North Park. And if you know that community, you know it's predominantly very white, and it's very expensive. The school costs $23,000 a year, which is actually more than most colleges. I got accepted, and it was a huge turning point in my life. I was never self-conscious about my skin color or anything like that until I actually went to the school and noticed that I was different than everybody else, and also that I wasn't as wealthy as everybody else. I lasted a year there and left because of personal reasons, and I learned a lot of things about my city. I got to mingle with the elite of Dallas and soon discovered that the progressive city I loved was actually being run by racist, wealthy men that all happened to share the same zip code. So in my school, I didn't really experience a lot of racism, but a lot of people would talk about the encounters they would have and just personal experiences. And allegedly, the Dallas Country Club only accepting all white, not even Jewish people. So obviously there's an underlying issue here. My private school had a lot of rules about discrimination, and you would be expelled if you said anything remotely controversial. But our public school rival, this is Highland Park, was the opposite. Does Highland Park sound familiar to you? It's that really nice neighborhood in Dallas that everybody likes to go to. And it's also known for making national news for having alumni such as Levi Preddy, the boy caught on tape saying the N-word, go viral. Many Highland Park students have been caught saying racist comments, and what really happens is they get a slap on the wrist, they have to say an apology, and it's all good to go. In this speech, I will show how moving low-income families into affluent districts requiring elective classes about other cultures and community service can have a positive impact on communities such as Highland Park. I will also be advocating for programs of zero tolerance towards racism and consequences such as community service, expulsion from school, and extracurricular activities such as sports clubs and dances. In November 2015, Dallas had an election day that had to do with school bonds and increasing school sizing. Highland Park had the problem that if they were going to increase their school sizing, they would actually hit some apartments that were, you can't really tell, but in this is a map, and this is the district that they were in. If they were to increase it, they would actually have some apartments that were in Section 8 housing, which is lower income families that are usually minorities. So of course they didn't want that, and they were outraged because 94% of Highland Park is Caucasian, so they didn't want that. The first black owner was also in 2003, so that shows how diverse it is. The district isn't used to the diversity, so why would I want it to change now? Due to the fact that these children are not around these cultures, it has caused them to be insensitive, ignorant, and sometimes racist. If Dallas required every public school to have classes that other cultures at least might help these children in something other than elitism and entitlement they're used to. Obama even tried to get low-income families to be assigned to more prestigious districts where students could be given more educational opportunities, but of course, it was opposed by a lot of these districts. Why would anyone want to strip away an educational opportunity from a child? You tell me. In our current society, one of the worst things you can do to yourself is get caught doing something dumb or outrageous and go viral. Social media has rightfully gotten racist people fired from work, and what happens to the kids that are so wealthy they don't have to go to work or have a job opportunity with their dad, even though they did something bad. This is where the fake apologies should not be taken, and serious consequences should be enforced. Of course, we can start implementing strong punishments for racists such as expulsion when kids are younger so that they know they can't get away with everything they do. There was even a author who went to Highland Park. He was a Japanese-American author, Jamie Ford, who was mocked by a group of Highland Park High School while giving a keynote speech. What did the administration do? They just issued an apology and nothing really happened. They just got detention. All these habits are carried onto adulthood, and voila, that's how a Levi Petit is created. He was an OU fraternity SAE student who got in trouble for saying the N-word on camera. Not only that, he got caught talking about lynching and racial segregation. Where did he go? He went to Highland Park. And then what did he do after he got caught? He just issued a robotic, monotone apology, and everything went on, and nothing really happened. In my mind, I thought it was maybe the wealthy people against people who made less, like, money-wise. But it's way more complex than that. My brother actually attends the Episcopal School of Dallas and is a junior, so he has a first-hand experience on how everything runs. In his school, like I've said before, there's no tolerance for any type of racism or prejudice. My brother was in the lacrosse team, the only Mexican on the team, when his roommate, Gabriel Letcher, was called the N-word by his rival lacrosse team, Highland Park. Of course, Letcher gave a public statement regarding the racist remark, which is right there. And all what really happened is they issued an apology, and that's all that happened to the kid. There's nothing really bad. So why was it that two teams, both wealthy, some might debate that even ESD has more money since they do pay out of pocket to go to school, react so differently to a black student? I would have to say upbringing, culture, community service, and consequences all have to do with it. Highland Park students are raised in a mob mentality to protect their own and call out anyone different than them. They are entitled. Allegedly, parents from Highland Park even hire cops to supervise their homes while their underage child drinks. Meanwhile, at ESD, There's a zero tolerance for racism. Kids have to volunteer, and diversity is encouraged, although there's no many minority students. The Dallas community has to shed light to the issues that is Highland Park. We cannot let these students get away with blatant disrespect because they soon turn to adults who turn into politicians, who then turn into a president who runs a country. In conclusion, I want the Dallas community to advocate this issue to our education boards and finally do something about it. We can't let this type of disrespect and racism happen. There should be zero tolerance rules and consequences. And that's what I'm advocating for now. It's sad that it's 2020 and we still have to deal with such ignorance. But if enough people contact local politicians and city council